Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast with Trey and Lee. And this week we are talking about a problem that we had as a young married couple for the first few years of marriage that we really struggled with, and how it affected us and how we got it under control. And we're excited to share with you some thoughts on this today.
Welcome to the Stronger Marriage Podcast with Trey and Lee. On this podcast, you'll hear real topics about real life. They cover everything from married sex to raising kids to loving your spouse so much that you're willing to forgive them for occasionally being the most annoying person in the world. Trey and Lee have raised 4 boys, been married over 30 years, and somehow still really like each other. And now, live from the metropolis of Childress, Texas, a place so flat you can watch your dog run away for 3 days. Here are your hosts for the Stronger Marriage Podcast, Trey and Lee Morgan.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, we're glad that you're here. We hope your week is going good. We hope it is warmer where you are than it is in Childress, Texas today, because it's still stinking winter. And I know it's February, but I'm ready for some sunshine and some warm.
Yeah.
I've got things to do outside and I can't.
Yeah. You know, it's still officially about 3 weeks until spring, so I guess we just need to be patient for a few more weeks.
I know I'm struggling. I'm probably going to get out today in the garage with the door shut and try to get a little heat in there and do a little work because I need to get some stuff done. Some messy stuff that I can't do in the house unless you'll let me bring my saws and tools and things like that in the house.
No, probably not.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Probably not.
Yeah. Had a great time in Edmond, Oklahoma. With a lot of awesome couples that hung out with us last weekend. If you were at the Edmond workshop, thanks for hanging out with us. Honored that you came our way. And we have coming up this Sunday
Our online date night.
Yes.
Intimacy edition. We're excited about this. It's not too late to sign up. You can go to treyandlee.com and sign up there, but we're going to be talking about all of the intimacies. You know, we tend to think about intimacy as only sex. I think we've mentioned it here on the podcast before, but we're going to talk about emotional intimacy, recreational intimacy, spiritual intimacy, and how all of those can help your sexual intimacy be so much better. So we're gonna cover it all on Sunday night. We hope you'll join us.
This will be the 27th of February. Not sure when you're listening to this right now.
Right.
But if you get a chance, join us. You may go, hey, I am tied up on Sunday night and I can't be there. You can still sign up to watch. Those videos will be available for about 48 hours after the event, so you could watch them Monday. But Sunday's going to be awesome. We've heard from couples that said we're planning to get the kids busy watching a movie. We're going to grab some popcorn and some snacks and going to sit down together. And we have emailed out the workbook, and it's going to be a fun night. And I'm excited about doing that. And you're going to get a live view from our house, from the Morgan house. You don't get any more raw than the way we're going to do it, sitting at our table visiting with you guys. So
Right.
It'll be fun. It will be fun. So this is an issue that we struggle with early in marriage. And I don't know why. It could have been that we didn't have a lot of money. It could have been that we were poor. And when we say poor, we had chose as a young couple to live off of a single income so that Lee could be a stay-home mother as much as possible. We knew we were going to give some stuff up so she could be a stay-at-home mom. But we, in our ignorance and our lack of premarital counseling, we were not informed very well at all about the dangers of credit cards and debt. And it took us, we probably had not been married 4 years, and we had about 3 cards that probably totaled about $8,000 in debt. And at the time, because we didn't understand it, you probably had a better idea than I did. I thought it was just the greatest stuff in the world. But at the time, we were only paying the minimum on those cards because we just thought, wow, this is not bad at all. You know, we're only paying $20 a month on a card that's got $4,000 or $6,000 or $8,000. But we didn't understand that they were charging us 24% interest and sometimes higher. And Lee actually sat down and did some research on that, and we're going to tell you that story in a little while on it. But we're going to talk today about money on this podcast and why debt is hard on your marriage.
Absolutely. It is. It just causes so much stress because you've got it hanging over your head, and you just think there's no light at the end of the tunnel. How are we ever going to pay all of that off? And so it's just always hanging over your head. I don't like things hanging over my head. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't bother everybody to know that they owe a bunch of money to somebody, but it bothered me.
Yeah. So. And there were times early in marriage that we had more month left at the end of the month than we did money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we, like you said, we had a very small budget, and sometimes it just didn't cover the whole month. And so we might have to go put groceries on a credit card. And
that's why you've heard Lee say she's very frugal. Don't go spend $60 on a pair of flowers for me early in marriage.
That's right. Yeah. That was a big no-no, because that would have bought a whole bunch of groceries and diapers and whatever. So yeah, you threw out that number 8,000. I would be curious to know, because I don't remember how much much we had at that time when we decided something's got to change. But it was a big enough figure. We were bothered enough by it that we went to work and made some changes.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of those changes when we get there. You know, one of the out of the first top 5 or 6 reasons for divorce, of course, the number 1 is affairs or sexual issues. But number 2 is money issues. And actually, money issues cause more problems, because what happens is when you're stressed because you have a lot of debt in your marriage, that debt and stress is kind of like a wrecking ball, that all them little cracks you have in your marriage that you're working on, but they're not big cracks, they're just little problems. Maybe it is some difference in sexual drives. Maybe it's a little bit different fact that we're not communicating really well, or whatever it is. But that debt takes like a wrecking ball and just starts smashing all those other things and making them massive things. And yeah, debt is probably the underlying cause of divorce in most marriages.
Yeah, I think so. You know, like I said, it's always there, and you're just always aware of, you know, if your spouse goes and spends money on something and you're thinking, oh, you know, why did they spend money on that? Or you know, it's just always there, and it causes problems in all the other areas, like you said.
So tell us a few figures. You've got some figures that you've worked through on debt on American families and things along those lines.
So some statistics that we came across are that 32% of American families don't have a savings account or an emergency fund. We know that this is very important because we lived through 2020, where this highly affected a lot of families that didn't, people that lost their jobs and they had nothing to fall back on. So,
An emergency fund is good because when you have a flat and you blow out a tire and you don't have money for a new tire, then if you don't have an emergency fund, then it's like, we'll put it on that credit card. And so that's why it's important to have, I believe Dave Ramsey suggests having 3 months of income stashed back for an emergency fund, a big emergency. And that's not a bad deal. And that may sound horrific, like we could never do that, but it takes very small steps.
That's right.
We're going to talk a little bit about that as we go as well.
The average income in America is about $61,000 a year.
Yeah, and the average American family, the debt they carry is about $137,000. So you got the median income is about 61. The average debt is about double of that.
Yeah.
And so somewhere there's some families hurting with debt. And one place we saw said the average household carries about $8,000 debt in credit card debt.
Yeah.
And that makes it hard. And when you get behind and when you start having debt, it's easy to go, well, we've already got $8,000 on there. What's another $200?
That's right. You can never get ahead of that interest. That's where the problem lies, and that's what we didn't, as a young couple, understand. So I may be jumping ahead.
No, you're doing good. You're doing good. Now, some of you listen to this may be doing good financially right now. You may be going, "Hey, we're doing good. We've done the Dave Ramsey stuff." We meet people all the time that said, "Yeah, we've been out of debt for years, and we still do Dave Ramsey stuff." We still have some principles that we apply in our marriage. We don't do a lot of the Dave Ramsey stuff. We've taken a lot of his opinions. We've taken a lot of his suggestions and we've applied them to our marriage, and they have worked great. There's some things that we don't do an envelope system and things like that anymore.
But we did.
We did at the time, and we'll talk more about that. But here, we want to share with you about 9 things that we've learned about money and marriage and what has worked for us and helped us as a couple. And we're not marriage experts by any form or fashion. Most of this has been through trial and error that we've had to learn sometimes the hard way.
Yeah. So, by far, rule number 1 is don't spend more than you make. Just don't spend more than you make. And that's hard sometimes when you're on a teeny tiny budget. That's what got us in trouble. But there were things we definitely could have done differently. And it doesn't matter if you make $500,000 a year or $5,000 a year. You just can't spend more than you make.
Yeah, you can't. And it's nice to look around and go, hey, our car has a few problems. It's not always dependable. There's been times when it's been in the shop, but a car that's paid off, that you're trying to work through some things on it, is a whole lot cheaper than a $699 car payment, per month for the next 6-8 years. So if you can afford a car payment, by all means, but don't talk yourself into things you can't afford. And when you can afford, for example, let's just say, hey, we can afford a new car and we need a new car and we're going to buy a new car and we have about $30,000 budgeted for a new car. Don't go look at $40,000 cars. That's the temptation.
Yeah.
Stay in your area. If you're looking at hey, we can afford a $500 payment for a vehicle, don't go look for a car and find one that's $600 for a payment.
And think, well, that's not that much over what we said, because
Exactly.
it will add up over time. And that was one of the ways that we really were able to get ahead financially, was when we decided to pay off a vehicle and drive it for, we had that one Suburban. How long did we drive that thing paid off?
We had an old blue Suburban. We drove it for about 5, maybe 6 years after we paid it off.
Yes.
It was maybe 10, 12 years old, had 170,000 miles. Your sister used to go, is it time for you to get my sister a new vehicle? I'm worried about her driving down the road with 170,000 miles.
Yeah.
But that thing was still going.
It was going.
In fact, we sold it when it wrecked.
Right.
And so when you're not making a $500 payment, that's a raise.
It is, and you can spend that money on, other things. You can get caught up on, other debt that you might have. Apply that to the principal of your home. My goodness, pay that home off earlier, and you will save thousands. I'm not kidding you, thousands of dollars in interest if you can just apply a little bit more to your principal every month. And when you can apply big chunks to your principal, you'll really get that thing paid off in a hurry.
That's true. Can I tell a quick story on
Yep.
this? On vehicles, we bought for the first years of marriage, we bought used vehicles. All of them were 2 to 4 years old. We tried to find low mileage ones because they were so much cheaper than driving one off a lot and having 5, 6. Now you can do 8 years of payments, which is crazy. And so we'd try to pay cash, but that wasn't always the case. If we couldn't pay cash, we'd always try to make a down payment, but we would always buy older vehicles. Now, I like vehicles. I like new vehicles. I like vehicles that smell new. And so that was really hard on me to go, yeah, we're going to buy a vehicle and it's probably going to have a stain on it because somebody else has had it and somebody else has driven it, but that's okay. And we had 4 boys that all turned 16 years old, and every one of them had the same speech when they turned 16. It was like they handed it off to their little brother. Every time one of them turned 16, they would come into us and they would go, hey, Dad, hey, Mom, did you know that my buddy Jason down the street got a brand new Camaro for his birthday? And we would always say to them,
Yeah, I'm glad, hope you're good friends with him and you get to ride in it because you are not getting a brand new Camaro.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and every one of them would go, but why? Why can't we have a sports car? Why can't we have a new car? And we would oftentimes explain to them because, I'm driving a 15-year-old Chevy pickup that's got 150,000 miles on it. If anybody's getting a new car, it ain't gonna be you. But we did buy our children their first vehicle. Some people make their kids pay their first vehicle. We bought our first kid's vehicle. None of them were over $5,000. They were a basic vehicle. They all had air conditioners because this is Texas and it's hot. They all had a radio because that was important to them. And then we told our kids to keep them just from running around because we were 16. We know how that was. Just giving rides and hanging out and driving up and down the street. We told our kids, we'll buy 1 tank of gas a month for your car. And when it runs out, if it's not the first of the month yet, you have to either park it or buy your own gas for the rest of the month. And boy, did they ever work hard to save money.
That's right. They
save gas. They wouldn't even give,
yeah,
we felt bad.
We have a funny story about one of our sons. A friend had called, was at a practice after school down the street, the junior highs down the street from us. And this was a little sister to our son's best friend. And she called him and she was like, I'm stuck and nobody, Ryan can't come get me. Mom and Dad can't come get me. Can you give me a ride home?
It's cold outside and we heard Taylor say.
It was like, I can't give you a ride home. I'm almost out of gas. And
and we told him, go give her a ride home.
We'll make sure we can cover you. We'll spot you a little to give her a ride home.
Yeah, you go give her a ride home. But, that we bought liability insurance. 2 of our boys, our youngest is 20. The other one is 25. 2 of our boys are still driving the original cars we bought them. One of them, who has a full-time job and makes good money, I asked him a while back, I said, Connor, have you thought about trading in the old Impala, And he goes, why, Dad? It's paid for it. I thought, I'm proud of that boy. Yeah, very, very good.
That's true. And you may be listening to this thinking, man, y'all are a whole lot more generous with your kids than we are with ours. I mean, some people, their kids have to buy their own vehicles. They have to pay for all their own gas, have to pay for all their own insurance. And kudos. Those are just the choices we made.
Yeah.
We were able to do that, because we had gotten out of debt before our kiddos were driving. We were able to do that for them.
And we told our kids that, hey, you tear this one up, you go out and get rough with your car and break it. Hey, you don't get another one. This is your car. And so take good care of it. Second point that we want to catch, life, just to remind you, life isn't about working and making money. Life is about relationships. And that is important to do, is just, we live in a society that just kind of tells us, let's work and work and work and work. And I like work and I like making money, I'll be honest with you, but that's not what life is about. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever ends their life going, I wish I'd have spent more time in the office. I wish I'd have took that second job. Life is not about money. It's about relationships. And it's important that you spend time doing relationships over whatever.
That's right. And people fall into the trap of thinking, well, we're never going to get out of debt unless we make more money or unless, we work more hours or whatever it is. But that's not true. It's really not. You can cut corners financially. Like we said, you don't have to have the newest and greatest and best of everything. Don't fall into the trap that says you have to have name brand stuff.
We don't upgrade our cell phones every time
right.
a new one comes out.
Just learn to be content with what you have, maybe for a period of time while you're trying to pay some things off. And you'll get to the point where, like you said, maybe you can buy a new car at some point. Yeah. If you'll learn to cut corners. But don't fall into that trap of thinking that we just always have to be working because relationships are more important.
They are. And even eating out is so much more expensive than cooking at home.
Oh, absolutely. That was a hard lesson learned too when we added up how much we were spending eating out. And we thought, well, that's got to stop because, man, buying groceries and cooking at home is a fraction of what you spend eating out.
Yeah. it makes a big difference when you just learn to cut them corners. But the main thing is just remember, and that sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, that relationships trump stuff. And a second job would be nice, but also understand that, hey, sometimes a second job, if it takes you away from your kids and it takes you away from your wife or your husband, then maybe the second job isn't the best thing in the world. And we've met people. I met a guy one time that said, I'm going to take a job away from my family. I'm going to be gone for a whole month and home on, maybe a couple of weekends of the month. And I said, that's not wise. And he said, but do you realize I'll be doubling my salary? And I said, that's awesome, but do you realize you're going to be gone like 80% of the month? And a year later, that man's, and I said, your marriage, and at that time he said, my marriage is strong, my family is strong. And it literally was a year later, he was in my office saying, what can I do to save my marriage? Distance is hard on marriage. And sometimes the job that's, it's going to take you away from your family for 2 weeks is maybe not worth the extra $20,000, whatever it is. You understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
And so just remember, life isn't about just working and making money. Life's about relationships. And when you get to the end of your life, you're not going to look back and go, but at least I had all these new cars. It's your relationships that are actually going to matter. And so let's do another one and see if we can get another one in. We're going to do part 1 and part 2 here, but let's see if we can knock out another one, and then we'll pick the rest out next week.
This is a big one. Don't make major purchases without talking them over together. That's just a no-brainer. Whether you're having financial issues or not, you just need to be on the same page about major purchases. We see shows on TV where somebody surprises their spouse with a new house, or, but it was her childhood home and I had to buy it and I wanted it to be a surprise. And it's like, I think you probably need to talk that over before you buy a house.
Don't go buy a new car for your spouse without talking to your spouse about this. Communicate about major purchases and figure out what a major purchase is in your marriage. We kind of have limits on, I know if I need a $20 something, I don't have to call and go, hey, babe, I need this, it's $20. So you're going to go, why are you asking me that?
Right.
But if it's something that's like $100 or more, we may go, hey, I need this tool. I don't know if I can afford this tool. It's not in the budget right now. We kind of have an area that we communicate about in that, where we just don't go say, oh yeah, I bought a $200 tool. Did I not tell you that?
Right. But there was a time when we were on that teeny tiny budget,
even
and we were trying to get out of
yes.
debt. That $20 was a major purchase.
Yes, it was.
And so, we worked through that. We knew that we had to each have some money that we felt like we could spend however we wanted to. And maybe we only said, okay, here's $20 for you for the week, and here's $20 for me. And if we want to go eat lunch with a friend or whatever it is, I don't think we gave each other $20 at the time.
No, I don't think. I thought it was.
It was more like 5 or 10.
I always joke that we went from having all this money because we had everything on credit cards, paying the minimum, to all of a sudden you were giving me $5 a week, going, hey,
here's your coffee money.
Here's your coffee money and your fun money, and then on about 2 days, if I hadn't spent it, you were wanting it back to pay a bill with. You got into this bill paying thing.
Yes.
So
yes. So our point is, you need to decide, what's a major purchase for your marriage. But just talk things over. You've got to communicate about money, bottom line, communicate.
Yeah, that is important. Don't just automatically think, well, you should just know these things. Talk about those.
Yeah, which leads right into the next one.
Which we're going to start with next week.
Yeah.
Let me finish it. Can I finish this with a story just real quickly, and we'll pick this up next week?
Yes.
I remember when we got our first, we had 3 credit cards, and they all had high interest, and you figured out through Dave Ramsey, we can roll these over to no interest credit cards. They would have like 9 months, no interest is what it was. And you would roll those cards over no interest, and we'd pay big chunks on them trying to get them paid off and not pay interest. And I remember one of the rules was take the one with the smallest amount, pay it first, because it makes you feel like you've done something really great when you pay off something. And so I remember in what I call kind of the dark days when we were paying off bills and you were giving me $5 a week, and I was going, that's it? Because I'm kind of the spender and you're the saver. I remember you calling me and you were so excited, and you called and I said, what's going on? She goes, I'm so excited. Guess what? And I said, what? You go, we paid off our first of 3 credit cards. This was like 6 months into this. And my first thought was that is awesome, because now we have an extra. I actually asked, I said, how much were we paying? You said about $250 a month on this card. And I said, that is awesome, because that means next month we have $250 of fun money we can go do something fun with finally. And you remember what you said to me?
I was like, no. That $250 is going to roll over onto the next card that we're trying to get paid off. It's called the snowball effect. You start making, however much you've got to make payments with, that's what you do. And then once you pay something off, then you just make a little bit bigger payments on the next thing.
You people listening to this, she was so stinking mean. I mean, we could have had so much fun with that money, but no, she had to pay she did the right thing. We did the right thing, and we took that $250, she rolled it to another card. Lee is the bill payer. She is the person that takes care of stuff on bills and stuff, and she's going to explain a little bit about that next week as we continue with part 2 of why money matters in marriage. We're just glad that y'all have hung out with us today, and that we've had a little bit of time to just talk about some struggles that we've had in our past and kind of how we overcame some stuff, and we're hoping that it blesses you as well.
That's right. We'll pick up where we left off. We'll talk more about communicating with your spouse on this. Next week, we got about 6 more points to cover, and we're looking forward to it.
It'll be fun stuff. So hope to see a few of you at Date Night Online live this Sunday night. Y'all have a great week.